WrestleTalk! WrestleTalk!
I have a theory. An Austin theory, if you will, but it's not about Austin theory. So, Nikki Cross returned on this episode, no longer a superhero, now just Nikki Cross once again. And I actually said on the WrestleTalk Extra show that we're going out tomorrow to our
Spoilers.
Patreon backers that I think that we could be getting a return of Sanity, the faction led by
Long
Eric Young.
needed. You see, you mean the faction.
The faction Sanity, the return of Sanity. I think Eric Young will be coming back into the company. Trips is all about them big returns currently. So I can see Big Damo going back in. I could see them getting back with Wolf and that as well. And bringing back Sanity to the main roster. And this to me feels like the first step of this. I am Luco in DAD. This, of course, is Professor Dan Layton, who 30 seconds before we went live here, took apart his microphone stand.
I will not have this slander. This microphone stand is wonky, and I've been trying to fix it this whole time, and you've just been watching. You haven't offered any help.
I've been doing everything else, Dan.
That's fair. You've been doing literally the whole thing. I'd normally just come here and sit pretty, but then also the microphone is touching the desk, and I was trying to position it in the right place because you all tell me that my voice isn't loud enough, and I'm trying my best. So I'm just going to sit. I'm not going to look at you all episode. I'm just going to project forward this way so that I'm talking directly into the microphone and hope nothing breaks.
I mean, yeah, you could always just adjust it ever so slightly.
But
like
it's
this.
not because because it fell apart when I tried to do just ever so slightly, and the thing went.
Me and Dan have had quite the day. But anyway, let's talk about this main event because this is the Raw review episode of the WrestleTalk podcast. Please do press the subscribe button. In fact, I've even got a little thing that pops up on screen if I press.
You never have.
Have I? No, have I? Hey, I have. Look at that. Subscribe. You can do it. Press the subscribe button. Also, on the audio realm as well, do the same thing. Leave a comment if you're watching this on demand. But if you are watching live, get in your Ultrachats to WrestleTalk.com/support.
What were those?
So we used to call them super chats, and we would go like, sir, super chats. But you can't really go like, ultra chats. But I started doing the arm thing.
You could.
You could do. But anyway, we are going to be talking about the main event of this show, which I thought was a tremendous little match between Bayley and Bianca Belair.
It was actually, and given that we weren't in any way hyped for it as recently as last night.
Well, even the story they were telling on this episode, the video package they played halfway through did make me go like, I mean, I'm looking forward to watching these two wrestle, but I'm not into this story whatsoever because they have killed my interest within this story because they killed Damage Control at Extreme Rules. And the story of the show, again, was, well, what will Bianca Belair do when she's got no friends to back her up? And I said,
we already did that.
Probably what she'll do at Extreme Rules, which you showed in this video package. She'll just do it fine on her own.
She's got this.
Because they took out Candice LeRae earlier in the night.
They did, yeah.
So it was once again, Bianca Belair's on her own. She doesn't have and friends with her, so she is running it solo. And there was a lot of distraction and interference by Kai and Sky.
Shenanigans.
For my money, too much distraction and interference on this show.
Oh, yeah, we'll get into it.
Every single match, with the exception of the Omos 4-on-1 handicap match, featured a distraction interference finish.
Yeah,
every single one.
And it's one of those things where once you notice it, you can't unnotice it.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't mind an interference now and again. I think it can be used to tell a story and protect both members of the
Find your words, Dan. We're live, pal.
Match. That's what it's called. It's a match. Everything's fine. But in this case, it was just every single match.
Yeah.
It really disrupts the flow of the show. It just makes you go, and I could see each of them coming because they were all telegraphed.
Yeah.
So it was like, bit frustrating.
But this one I thought was a very interesting, and I kind of wish that none of the other matches had them, because then this would have had much more impact.
Because if you are going to do that, like I said, it can be a really good device and then I'd wait for ages to figure out what the word match was. But then, it's if you're going to do it, you got to deploy it well. You got to be smart about it. You can't just use it every single time.
Yeah.
And it could have been used to a good effect in this match.
So the finish of this match was, there was a bit more interference from Kai and Sky, but from Adam, and so the referee then goes to the outside to do the big, you're out of here.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed with this, by the way.
Big
we were doing this all over SmackDown.
I know.
The sort of you and you.
You're out of here!
And it's the most fun in the world. So, yeah.
But he was just about to do that when all of a sudden, someone dived off the top rope.
And nobody could tell who it was.
A mystery woman dived off the top rope, and Kevin could not, even though it was right in front of him, could not figure out who it was. Corey Graves could not figure out who it was.
Yeah.
This mystery woman then got in the ring, and Belair hit the KOD and got the visual pin, but then this mystery woman got in and hit her swinging neck breaker.
Yeah.
All the while, Corey Graves is saying, "That's Nikki Cross. That's Nikki Cross," and Kevin blankly kept going, "No, it isn't.
No, it can't be. Doesn't look like she's not wearing a cape. So it can't be Nikki Cross."
That was his basic argument.
Yeah.
Was can't be.
It's not Nikki Cross. The one I will say, when she did jump off the top rope and land on the ref and damage control, I was a little bit like, who is this? And the only person I knew it couldn't possibly be was Sasha, because why would Sasha go for brown hair? So it was I was going purely based on hair.
It would had to be.
And then once I got a glimmer. That's what the announcers are there to do, to tell us it's Nikki Cross before we can get the close up. I mean, you want that kind of reveal moment, but it was a long time coming.
It was a little bit as well. Also, I'm going to shout out to moderator Rob, who's just called it a Nikki Cross body, if you will.
Oh, and I absolutely will, repeatedly. So the Nikki Cross got in the ring, hit her finish on Belair. Bayley pins Belair when a new ref runs in. Not sure why the new ref didn't be like, this is a bit screwy. I did think that as well. But also,
it's wrestling, it's fine.
It looked like she did think this was a bit screwy, because she was a bit crushed. She was like, yes, she won the match. But then also, why didn't you run out when Bianca was doing a cover?
Yeah, where were you?
It's a really long way from the ref's locker room.
Yeah, like the referee's all there just playing like rummy.
Yeah,
be like, what's happened? One of us is down.
There's a ref symbol in the sky, and they have to run.
And then they had a big race to try and see who was the first person to get there. And Bayley pins her. And then afterwards, Bayley's there celebrating. Nikki Cross then beats down Bayley as well. She's on no one's side. She's a chaos unto herself. She is mayhem personified, as Corey Graves put it.
What did he say? I wrote this down.
Look at you with digital notes.
I know. Well, this was the thing. But then also, because I was on the Wi-Fi, all of my notifications coming through as well, so I got distracted. So there's problems with digital as well as analog. Nikki returns. Kevin Patrick says, I've never seen this side of her before. And Corey Graves goes, I have, which I thought was quite nice.
No, it was really, really nice. Because they'd mentioned this earlier in the show as well about Johnny Gargano.
Yeah.
Corey Graves said, I've called pretty much all of Johnny Gargano's matches since he came to WWE, as well as wrestling him on the independent circuits 15 years ago. So I know I've got a good connection with him. And so, that kind of then sets up for Nikki, him later on to be like, no, I know this side.
I've seen this side of Nikki Cross.
I've seen this side of Nikki Cross. And if Kevin had watched the product, he would also know this side, because we did get this briefly on the main roster.
Yeah.
So, just watch your own product, Kevin. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I thought that Corey's selling of this was great. Kevin's as sort of the new fans who may have only known her as ASH.
That's it.
I think it was a really nice touch as well. I'm being facetious about the Kevin stuff. I actually thought it was a really nice move. But yeah, Nikki Cross is now back as the Maniac Nikki Cross. Sanity Nikki Cross. Do you think... Because Eric Young's contract with Impact ends at the end of this year.
Well, please continue your question.
Damo is a free agent.
Yeah.
I think Wolf, and we might be able to get some of our German contingent in the chat to clarify this, that he is also still a free agent. Triple H loved that group. He loved.
It was one of his
faction.
early babies.
One of his big early faction things that he did in NXT. He loved that group, and that group was awesome in NXT.
It was over.
As well. So cool in NXT. I might be one of the 5 people that also loved the music. That's
I like the music.
Oh, cool. We're two of the 5. Then.
I must have seen you at one of the conventions.
I think Triple H, particularly now we've seen him doing a lot of faction-based stuff on the main roster, just adding another faction in there. And it's the sort of thing I think he would definitely go for. But I want to pose it to you. 2-part question. A, do you think we could see Sanity back on the main roster? B, would you like to see Sanity back in WWE?
Well, it's interesting because I remember we did have a brief conversation about this last week when I was talking about available people and why they're recycling the same matches and things like that. And I mentioned Nikki Cross, and you said you kind of had this pitch of we won't see her until the end of the year.
Yeah,
which is not a bad idea if we're going to wait for them all to come back at once. That said, I'm kind of intrigued at the idea of we're going to get, because she didn't look full mayhem, unhinged Nikki Cross. She just looked.
She's got her makeup on.
Well, this is. And
she got a lippy on.
If I may, she looked Nikki Cross. At most. Cross. You see, cross has two meanings, everybody. That's what I was going with. I think she looked Nikki Cross. I'll just repeat the joke for anyone else.
For those
Nikki Cross.
For those at the back.
Thank you. So it was this thing of like, you know, she's lost. Well, she's realized this superhero thing wasn't a vibe. She's frustrated. She's gone a bit mean again. We could see more from her in this, you know, vein, going a bit unhinged, and then ultimately lead towards sanity. I can see many an argument for it because, not least, we are faction heavy at this stage. Triple H loves his faction.
He loves a faction.
I love my factions.
Love
as well.
them. Big fan of factions.
And something I read before coming into the studio, possibly, was a Kofi Kingston interview wherein he made an argument that there is a case to be made for a WWE Trios title.
Oh!
Thinking New Day, thinking Imperium, thinking Brawling Brutes,
Legado del
Fantasma. Because we are getting so many factions, there's an argument to be made that you could pitch that, and especially if we are going to streamline the shows down and not have this quite clear brand split with all of the both the tag titles are on the Bloodline, both the universe,
titles.
all of those, they're on the Bloodline. What if we had a tag title on one brand and a trios title on another? Especially if we're looking, how are we going to fill these 3 hours, the 5 hours of programming every week? I'm kind of into that, bringing sanity back. I would like to do that because I did think they didn't have the good. Vince didn't know what he was doing with them. He just wanted some new faces, brought them up, and then it was like, you know.
So the story is that sanity were brought up because they were going to do the tag team Money in the Bank.
Oh.
And so at that year's Money in the Bank, they were going to have 3 Money in the Bank ladder matches, a women's, a men's, and the tag team one. So they brought them up because they needed tag teams on the main rosters in order to fill this out, and then didn't do the tag team Money in the Bank. So then we're just left with this tag team that he didn't really want. So it's like, I don't know, they're coming, I guess. And then they came, and then they left.
Yeah, and that was it.
That was it.
And so you'd be forgiven for thinking that it was just a nothing team that couldn't really do anything, but they had a really solid run on NXT. This was when I was proper watching NXT.
Loved them in NXT.
So I would be intrigued to see it. I do wonder whether or not all of these factions, without anything to do with them and having everyone be lumped in together, I don't know. It's a case of too many people, not enough story.
If we do get trio titles in WWE or a 6-man belt, I'd actually like to see them as floating belts. So like the women's tag champions, you basically just go across the 2 shows.
Well, then your argument is all championships should be that. I think this is why I want to see it.
In fairness, that's been my argument since the brand split in 2002.
Yeah,
is
the champions were that.
Yeah, champions were just, they could go across both brands.
Yeah, and I think there's, I don't know, it's hard to argue a case for sanity, but it's also impossible to argue a case against sanity. I'm kind of intrigued to see it, and I'm more intrigued to see what they do with this Nikki interference because she wasn't aligning herself with anyone. It's giving a direction to Bianca. It's providing a distraction between Bayley and Bianca so that they don't have to keep that feud going on because, you know, either could go against and ahead of War Games. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, also,
I'm not sold either way.
I'm curious to see. Like I said this in my edited review, but like this felt like the injection of energy this show needed because this show was flagging a little bit for me. Like this show felt its 3 hours, and this sort of like ending shot here was just like but like for doubly the show needed it because I thought it was a bit of a nothing show, but also B, I was like, the women's division all of a sudden becomes interesting again.
Yeah.
Because I'm not into this Bayley storyline here because they killed my interest in Extreme Rules.
What's interesting is that I'm interested in the storyline on SmackDown, but I'm not interested in it on Raw. I'm interested in the tag teams. I thought the tag team offering on SmackDown was actually really good.
Yeah.
And then suddenly on Raw, I'm like, I'm less interested in Bayley now, and I don't know why that is. So you're right.
Yeah, I think the Bayley thing it's not working only because they not killed Bayley because I think that's unfair to say. But Belair won 3-on-1 and was fine. Yeah. And then for them to try and then continue the story to be like, oh, she'll really struggle 3-on-1. It's like, well, she's fine. And then what happened here? She was fine again.
She was fine.
So like next week, and they'll be like, oh, we're taking out another one of your friends. It's like, well, she doesn't need the and friends anyway.
No.
And like while we're waiting for Bliss and Asuka to come back, and then all of a sudden, like your women's division feels massive because it's Belair, it's Bayley, it's Asuka, it's Bliss, it's Lorraine because she's now involved in this, and now it's Cross. That's 6 people there. That's an amazing little mini roster of people, not including Kai and Sky.
Yeah.
So like it's really fleshed out. Think Doudrop, where the hell, like, where's she?
I believe injured.
Is she injured?
I believe
okay.
Injured, yeah.
Well, Gargano will probably just randomly drop that into a promo next week. I was texting her. Turns out she's
text Doudrop, yeah.
So, I mean, once she comes back, Triple H will be doing some great stuff with her as well. Like, I could see them, the women's division on Raw needed something. I feel like Cross reveal kind of gave that kind of the thing that I did need for this. And yeah, you're right. We're building up to War Games. I could see Cross being on Damage Control's side and them trying to like tame this wild animal, like to help them beat the good guys of Lorraine, Belair, Asuka, and Bliss.
Yeah.
If you do it 4-on-4. So I'm intrigued to see this. I would like to put out a poll though.
Oh.
If we can, to Mod Mother. Mod Mother, if you can hear me, can we have a poll, please? Would you like to see Sanity back in WWE? Because I always found them to be quite a divisive group.
No, that's what I mean when I say I'm not 100% sold. I liked what I saw back then. I did see it not working. And I keep coming back to all of this interference and all of this warfare and I'm going to run in the middle of your match and there's going to be all of this. Factions are hard to get right. That's why the Bloodline is really good, because they're the one and they have their internal dynamic, and they're not going against anyone in particular. They just are. Same with the Corporation back in the day. And you had Corporation versus DX, but other than that, you didn't really have any other factions.
I mean, they went Gang Wars in '97,
right?
And you had like the DOA and Los Boricuas and all this sort of stuff. But like the problem with Gang Wars is that it actually was a bit pants,
right?
When they did it in '97, because it was just a bunch of lads, and no one had really like defined. I mean, they had defined groups because they all just looked like different They just looked like different action figure sets.
It's about focus, isn't it? It's about drive, it's about what they're doing, why they're doing it, and where they're going. And I think that if they can do that part of it right, there's a case to be made for Sanity.
Well, let's see what you think of this in the Ultrachats. Get your Ultrachats into WrestleTalk.com/support. I'm really looking forward to reading out every single one of them above the $5. I'm trying my thing again, Dan.
Hey!
Do you know what? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
We just have to really concentrate.
Yeah. I think the magic key is to press it 4 times.
Ah, wow! Once you press it 4 times,
that's what gets it.
Because famously, 4 is the magic number.
So we'll read out all of them above the $5 before the end of the show. And Mayor of Painesville Dan kicks things off here to say, "Hello, Luke and other Dan. I hope you're having a big one. Will Sanity return? Well, technically, they already did return this year. Alexander Wolf, or Axel Tischer, fought as Sanity with Eric Young, theme and all, at WXW Tagfest in October. Will they work again? I don't know. I think Wolf is very happy in Germany. Damo and EY I can see with Nikki again. Wolf was not asked back with Imperium, but 3 out of 4 ain't bad. Personally, would not need Sanity back. Crazy Nikki is good enough."
I mean,
good enough for him, it's good enough. For him, it's good enough. Sorry.
Lovely. No, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Nikki and Damo are obviously a lovely couple.
They certainly are.
So if you want an incentive to come back to WWE, that's kind of one of them.
Also, if Triple H brings back Damo, that's another Quizzlemania competitor he's stolen from us.
And it's personal at this point. Well, I mean, there were lots of other things in the show that I felt like were personally directed at both of them.
Really?
So we'll get in the same segment. So maybe he is watching and he's like, I'm going to take WrestleTalk down one by one.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No. I think it's a good argument. They didn't bring Wolf back with Imperium when they did do the big reveal at Clash. That said, it was a 3-on-3 situation with a Brawling Brute, so it's arguable that they just sort of kept one away, unless he doesn't want to come back. And if you are going to consider bringing back Sanity, maybe you keep Wolf away from Imperium. I don't know.
Yeah. Benny Boy 004 said, "I know everyone is hoping for a Sanity return, but I'd like to see Nikki join Judgment Day and team with Rhea Ripley."
Now, interesting that you should say this, because First of all, we remember Rhea and Nikki had their little tag team situation, so that's recent history. Even Kevin Patrick might remember that.
Yeah, I actually had forgotten about.
Well, they have a little bit of the storyline. Granted, it was a different era, but for both of them, they were the tag champions. However, you might remember that in the show, and we'll get onto it, there was a backstage segment with the Good Brothers and AJ Styles, wherein Luke Gallows said, although they were basically saying, we've got a Rhea problem and we need to fix it, which would lead me to feel they need a lady on their team. Well, if we're going to have Nikki Cross as this mayhem for hire, doesn't really like anybody, has beef with everybody.
I think if the OC, California, we're going to bring anyone in.
It's a musical episode today.
It is. I'm just feeling a jubilant mood down. I was really down in the dumps
were having
before we
a hard
started,
morning.
but the second you and I just start chatting, all of a sudden my day brightens up, and I just want to have a bit of fun.
I like that energy.
A little bit of fun, mate. I think if the OC, California, were going to bring someone in, they would bring in someone that they were pals with, someone they've got history with.
Well, that's why I was going to ask the question later on. I was going to talk about that, but then because this Ultra Chat, I was like, well,
talk about it now. We'll come on to that, because I really enjoyed that segment. And we'll have this last one here from Kevin, who said, Truth got a hometown victory. 5 out of 5 Raw for me. I was intrigued by JBL and Corbin, but I can say that I don't like them because they found a way to make me not care about a Johnny Gargano match. But Nikki's return was nicely executed, so there's at least that.
Yeah. We'll get to that with the JBL segment because I have stuff to say.
Yes. Well, maybe we'll get into that stuff when we talk about the main show. We get the rest of your Ultra Chats into WrestleTalk.com/support, and we'll read out all of them above the $5. Plus, if you are one of our members, you get a free chat, and I've seen some free chats come in from the members. I believe one of them was even by someone who'd renamed themselves to be Mr. Higglesby. A wonderful little reference to the Monday Night War. So I look forward to reading that out later on. Now, Dan.
Yeah.
This is I've got this for just you.
Okay.
I took this out of my edited review.
Okay.
Because it was running long anyway.
You get a little exclusive.
So I was putting on Raw this morning. I didn't sleep very well last night. Lots of like nightmares that the kid was in the room, and like in terms of like she was playing in bed with us, and then we were asleep, so we were rolling over.
Oh, not like in a Halloween.
Not in a Halloween thing. No,
the
like,
child is evil and going to kill you.
No,
that's what I would dream about.
No, she's delightful.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But she's
they all seem delightful at first, Luke.
She's smiley, she's happy, she's playing around, and then,
Right.
but then I'd be like, oh no, I'm gonna roll over, because my wife's got one of those like hugging pillow things. When
right.
she rolls over, I'm like, you've got the kid. Stop trying to crush the child. So I had a lot of these sort of like dreams and nightmares and stuff, and I was waking up like every hour and stuff. So about like 5:30, I was like, I forgot to make the bottle last night anyway, so I'm just gonna go down and just start watching Raw now. And you know the theme song,
the Raw tonight.
Greatness.
Oh,
feels like you were about to do the
tonight is the night.
I think you were gonna do the Nickelback one.
Let me tell you the reason that one is in my head, because it's funny that you should bring up the theme. About 2 days ago, I went back and watched all the openings to Raw and decided which one. And I will say, the Nickelback...
It's thorn in my eye.
Oh, yeah. But I also have a soft spot for...
Oh, yeah. Union Underground.
I also have a soft spot for the Nickelback one.
Yeah.
Is it Nickelback?
Yeah. We're going at the
Hey! I also like... I just wanna be loved.
Oh, I forgot that one. That's my university one.
There are some absolute bangers on the Raw theme front.
But the reason why I wanted to bring up this one, because it's like greatness. Yeah, it feels like greatness. I couldn't not unhear him saying, yeah, it's gravy. Yeah, it feels like gravy.
And
it feels like gravy.
Well, perhaps we'll have a Thanksgiving edition of the show at some point, and it will feel like gravy.
So anyway, I was already chuckling away to myself on this show because it feels like gravy.
Feels like gravy.
It just feels like gravy, everyone. And then I was in a proper good mood because the best thing on Raw, the Judgment Day, opened this show. Love the Judgment Day.
I have a Dominic is dressed.
Oh,
joke.
please do.
Well, do you get to him and then I'll say it?
Yes. So Rhea opened up by saying that Mummy has known all along that Dominic is a man, and I thought that was very, very cool. And then Damien starts praising Dominic as the greatest luchador of all time.
Oh yeah, he really does.
And Dominic's just like, he's getting some great heat here, and he's just like, do you know what? I'm this generation's Eddie Guerrero, guys. And actually, no, when I think about it, Eddie Guerrero was his generation's Dominic Mysterio.
And I will say that Dominic, dressed like the weird kid on non-uniform day, is absolutely living in this role. And I'm thrilled to see it. I know we say this every week, but it's he looks so much more comfortable week in, week out. Really just like getting into this smarmy, knowing what people think about him and leaning into it. And it's great to see.
Also, he's getting the best heat out of this whole group.
And it's legit.
It's legit
it's
heat.
not okay. I mean, I think it's in the age of like kayfabe is dead, long live kayfabe and all the rest. Like we all know it's a show. We all know these are characters. This is not their real personalities necessarily, although I will get onto that in a little bit with another performer in the show. It's hard to get people to boo you, but there's something fun about booing Dominic Mysterio, and he's really leaning into it, and the crowd are really into it as well, and that's so much fun to see.
Dominic Mysterio, I think there's an argument to be made, is the biggest heel. He's the number one heel on Raw. In terms of the reactions that he gets, actual heel heat.
Yeah.
Because Rollins gets babyface reactions.
Yes.
Crowd just sing his theme song.
They do.
They don't boo him in what he does. In fact, when Mustafa Ali's getting, like when he's beating up Mustafa Ali, the babyface, people are singing his theme song. He's not getting heel heat.
Yeah.
Dom, on the other hand, is getting legit heel heat.
Yeah.
I can't think of another heel on Raw, because Bayley's not getting the heat anymore.
We got a lovely boo for Rhea, despite her impressiveness later on.
Oh, when she bought it, yeah.
But it's not the same kind of heat. This kind of pure, I want to boo you, you're going to say some words, I'm going to boo louder heat. It's Dom's.
Dom, and he can just turn to the crowd because he knows he's going to get the heat. He's the number one heel on Raw right now, and I love it. The OC came out and basically went, shut up.
Yeah, yeah. They didn't even try. They're just like,
rubbish.
Shut up.
Yeah, you're this generation James Ellsworth.
Very funny.
And then Balor was like, I started this club, you've been living off my success, and it led into a match with Karl Anderson and Finn Balor.
He specifically said, everyone who's been in this club has ridden my coattails. Somebody else who's been in that club is currently a member of the WWE roster, maybe on the injury list, but Cody Rhodes might have something to say. There are other people involved in that club that I think Balor taking credit for starting that club and being the kingpin, there's a lot of stories to play with.
There actually is. Yeah, you're not wrong.
And I'm intrigued by it.
I very much enjoyed Karl Anderson versus Finn Balor. It's lovely to see Karl Anderson have a singles match where he's given time to really show like how awesome Karl Anderson is. Because I think Karl Anderson's great and Balor's great as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good opener.
And it was really my favorite thing about this though is listening to the commentary trip over themselves to talk about Bullet Club without saying Bullet Club. They were like this faction that was over in Japan, this club, if you will.
Yeah, there's a club with some,
a collective that they were in,
an ammunition club.
They used to team together without saying the words Bullet Club. But yeah, I just really, really enjoyed this. It's a shame that the crowd, like the great thing about Anderson is that this crowd early on weren't that massively into Anderson versus Balor, because I would wager a lot of this crowd just think like, he's the tag guy, he was here a handful of years ago, and they did what they did. But by the end of this match, they were dead into this and really into the near falls. And I think of all the wrestling on the show, this was the most into. Granted, it's the opening match, but this was the most into the wrestling this crowd were actually in. Because I think a lot the other times, particularly later on in the Baron Corbin match, you could hear a pin drop.
But this is the thing about the show. This is what was curious about the show to me in general, is that I thought there was a lot of good moments in this show, but it did lag. Like, it did have pacing issues. It did drag. Yeah. Despite the fact that I actually thought most matches on this card were entertaining in isolation. And I start to think, like, 3 hours is a long time for an audience to sit there. They also film like main event and other things around the same time. So it's a long time for those audiences to be into stuff. Your opener needs to be fire. And it was cool to see them get into this. Into the match,
but really the big spot of this match is when everyone's getting involved on the outside, like AJ gets involved and Priest gets involved, and then Rhea Ripley throws Doc Gallows into the post.
Yeah, and he takes it like a champ,
and then she picks him up over her shoulder and body slams him like he's Andre the Giant and she's Hulk Hogan.
It would have been one thing if she did this to Karl.
Yep.
But Luke Gallows is what, 280 pounds?
Oh, it was so good.
And it was a really good front slam.
She muscled him up as well.
She absolutely did.
He helped, but she muscled him all the way up.
That's wrestling. Yeah. It's balance. It's making each other look good. And he really did the work to make his body weight go, because there was a lag. She held him in the air for a little while before slamming him down, which made it look even better.
So good.
And then off the adrenaline that she's no doubt feeling because the crowd are so into this whoa moment, she's giving it all that in his face. She's like, who's too sweet now? Like, it was so good. Rhea is fire.
Yeah. And then she gets there's some distraction by Dominic Mysterio, and Rhea Ripley low blows Karl Anderson behind the referee's back, so Balor gets the win. I loved all of this.
Vintage China.
Yeah, and looking back on it now, it's my favorite thing on this show.
It was really good.
Leaps and bounds.
I kept thinking about it throughout the show, I will say. I liked a lot. Like I say, I liked a lot of individual moments. It's weird to critique a show and say that the overall show itself was fine, or fine to average, despite there being lots of individual moments that I really, really liked. It's that weird thing that I think only Raw really has, where it's I'm old dog now, or whatever the phrase is about saying the same thing over and over again. It's because it's too long. But this moment was one of those, you're going to want to check the YouTube stats on that
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, do you know what? Should we do that?
Yeah, I think that we should. What a great idea. That's right.
Yeah. Well, first off, I'll recap the next segments, because this was a lot. We had 3 bits here. So we had a recap of Miz and Loomis last week.
Yeah.
Then we had Gargano and Miz chatting backstage.
Yeah.
The Miz is a terrible actor.
Excuse you.
And he was talking about, he says, there's no truth behind me and Dexter. There's nothing to say. I don't know what you're talking about, Gargano. And Gargano was like, I need you to go out there and tell the truth and set the record straight. And I wrote my notes here. The Miz is in his gear. I don't think this is going to happen. And then the Miz comes out for a promo and says, well, here's the truth about me and Dexter. I was like, so what was that previous segment all about then, when you kept banging on that there was no truth between the two of you?
Excuse me. I have to stop you there because you said the Miz was a bad actor.
He is
really
he said
bad. A really good
though.
line in here. He said, "You're using my name," and I actually respect that. And I laughed quite hard at that.
I think he's bad at scripted delivery.
Incorrect.
I think when he's off the cuff, he's grand. When he is reading dialogue, I mean, I've seen Marine movies. He is bad. He's a bad actor.
This isn't Marine movies. This is the Miz in the flesh.
And before people have a pop at me for ragging on the Miz, he's not the only bad actor in WWE. There's plenty of bad actors in WWE.
He wasn't the only bad actor in this segment.
Gargano
wasn't having a good time.
Oh, he's not much better, is he?
No.
And I thought he was awful in this next segment.
They really pitched him weird this episode.
Yeah.
And
they did actually, because I would say he was quite annoying.
Yes.
In this following segment.
It wasn't that kind of fun taunting babyface thing. It was you're a little dweeb.
Yeah, a dweeb is a great word. Yeah. And then later on in the Baron Corbin match, good crikey, he was a right little. He's dweebosaurus.
The thing is, he doesn't need to do any of this. He's good enough. He's good.
So yeah, anyway, Miz comes out for his promo and he's getting the watch out, which means that this crowd weren't really into much of it. And Gargano then comes out. He says the truth is that that he who should not be named wanted my mind. He wanted to learn from me, but I gave that to Ciampa and he was just jealous. And then Gargano comes out and says that's not what's happening. Also, Ciampa isn't missing; he's just injured. Weird throwaway line where he's like, "I'll just text him."
Well, I liked the idea. Again, it's this highlighting that Miz is. I want to use a bad word, and I don't know the alternative for it. But he's an S heel. He's just in this whole thing of he wanted to deliver my mind, and Gargano's like, dude, I know what the truth is. Stop being a knob about it. Let me tell you.
Disappointingly, I can now say that the Anderson Balor video is doing worse than this segment we're currently talking about now and the match itself. That's in terms of its YouTube numbers.
The Miz is the MVP of WWE.
It's doing ever so slightly better than Ali versus Theory.
I mean, it's because it's not got that. If it
had
just
that
an
as the thumbnail,
clip,
that's what they need. That's the thumbnail, man.
The isolated clip, I think it would pop off. No, to bring it back to the segment, I think that I was kind of into the idea, and he was also saying, dude, Ciampa's injured. The idea of that being stop deflecting, just be honest. But then things went mad.
Yeah, because what happened here was the Miz said, I want to tell the truth. And that brings out our truth.
And at this point, I thought I'd fallen asleep.
Yeah. I was like, I read in my notes here, what is going on?
And I will say, what did I write down? And I was watching live, so this is, again, about 1:30 in the morning. By the time our truth came out, I truly thought I'd fallen asleep and started to dream. And then I had my face in my hands. And then, against my better judgment, I started laughing. I started quite enjoying myself.
The thing for me here...
This rap went on for a long time.
Well, that's it. They've got 3 hours to fill. Yeah. So they were just like, Truth, you go out there and do your full rap.
If you feel me, say what's up.
Do both verses, all 3 choruses. You go out there and do the full thing.
And
Hometown.
he had music in his ears. He had the beat in his ears. He's got his in-ears on. Fair play.
So, and Truth is the hometown boy here, so he did some hometown stuff. Miz did some low-hanging hometown heat. They then did the match, and Truth won.
Or Truth. We got Or Truth. from Kevin.
Awesome Truth imploding here. Like, these guys were the ones to stop the Rock and John Cena.
They made these references to the Awesome Truth, and I was like, it was like an alternate universe. I was like, oh my god, that was so long ago.
11 years ago.
11 years ago.
11 years ago, the Awesome Truth versus
both
Rock and Cena.
Look the same.
Oh yeah, they have not aged a day.
They are killing it on the skincare front.
I mean, but Truth looks exactly like he did when he was K-Quick in 2000s.
That's alarming to me.
It
Ron
is.
Killings has some things. There is a painting of Ron Killings somewhere that is criminal.
And R-Truth won with a roll-up when The Miz got distracted by what he thought was Dexter Lumis at ringside, but it was actually Johnny Gargano dressed up as Lumis. So there it is. The story does not move on, because of course it didn't. Why would it?
Because now I would argue the story has moved on, because now it's a feud. Rather than being a feud between The Miz and Dexter Lumis, it's now a feud between The Miz and Johnny Gargano about Dexter Lumis. And if that's not progression, I don't know what is.
Kathy Kelly was backstage with Candice LeRae.
My future ex-wife, Kathy Kelly.
I know, bud. I know.
I love her so much.
She was with Candice LeRae, and they basically just had like a little frank little conversation about like how it's nice to be here. Didn't really know what was going to happen when I came back. It's like a sort of sit down interview. But then Damage Control walk in and they kick Kathy out because they are the heels here. And then they sort of did their own interview. And then in the end, Bayley like knocks the camera over, so we don't see them beat up Candice LeRae, which I thought was a really, really nice visual touch.
I was about to say, I quite liked the fact that this interview was being shot in a different way. It was a sit-down interview. We had two sets of cameras. It just created a little difference to the usual.
It was so much better than My Guest at this time.
Exactly, which we did get later on in the show.
Mm-hmm.
But anything that gives you as a fan a reason to go, that's different. If only to jolt your brain a little bit, I think is a good thing. And so I like the fact that we had those separate cuts. I like the fact that we didn't get to see the beatdown, because there is something about the backstage beatdown that just involves a lot of grunting that is akin to when they used to wrestle in the Performance Center in the early pandemic, which is just like, and it doesn't feel as believable.
Be louder, we haven't got an audience
exactly.
here.
So I liked it. I was intrigued by this, and I liked the fact that there were several references to Candice for the rest of the show. Mm-hmm. It didn't feel like an isolated incident.
Why did you and Kathy get divorced? Or why will you get divorced?
Because she'll realize that I'm not good enough for her.
Yeah, it adds up really.
We'll be a beautiful couple though.
Oh god, the pictures you two will take.
The Instagram.
Your Instagram feed will be so wonderful.
They'll be straightforward. You'll all love it, and then you'll all be crying when we divorce. But then we'll have a Miss Elizabeth Randy Savage moment and get back together.
Yeah, I think your Instagram feed will be so nice. You'll actually be able to have a Patreon off the back of it, and it will just be like nice photos of the two of you, just getting the behind the scenes scoops.
The purest OnlyFans in the history of the world.
Oh, such a pure Patreon.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, yeah. If you want to do OnlyFans, that's absolutely fine. But
if she wants to, I'm happy. I'll do anything for Kathy Kelly.
Never do it. Matt Riddle and Elias had a little chat backstage, and
this is the segment that's for us.
I know, because I wrote here, they do some more bongos jokes, so Dan will be happy.
Well, can I just say this to you here and now? Because we went off the air last week with me having a breakdown about some bongos, and I have to say, in this scenario, I'm fine with the bongos. I just don't think it's appropriate for a US title championship contender to prepare for his match by sourcing some bongos. Treat the title seriously. If you want to play with some bongos, this is the time to do it. He said, I've been hitting the bongs all day. That was a little joke for you, because you like that joke, don't you?
Well, I did, but then you're just doing the same joke that you did last week.
Yeah, so but you liked it very much, and this is the segment for us.
Yeah, but you know how like Anchorman was really funny, and then they did Anchorman 2, which was all of the same jokes, but not as good the second time round. And they sat there watching me like, these are all just the same jokes we had last time.
10 years betwing the Anchorman movies. This was 1 week.
So it was 7 days.
Yeah.
7 days.
But then we get an interruption, and here's where it's the other part for us, because before we get to the interruption, I think Elias was doing a pretty good job here of balancing that whole, because he's still good at the moment, but you can see justification for a little heel turn if you want to. And then we have American Alpha walk up and start doing some jokes, and Chad Gable says, and he might as well have been wearing a shirt that says, Luke Owen, I'm looking out for you. What's your band name? Blink 180. Shoosh! Popped me big time. This is a segment for you and me.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, I did tell that Blink 182 story on the same day that they announced their big tour they were doing, which apparently tickets were very expensive.
No, well, wouldn't you?
No. No, I'd make it so lots of people could come to my gigs.
Blink 182 the ones who are like, we want to
F your moms.
Yeah, and then I think someone in the comments was like, oh, they still do that.
course they do.
Yeah.
They've got no other material, like Degeneration X. But anyway, this is a fun little segment. Also, I really liked when they talked about the Blink-182 shoes thing, and Elias goes like, "Look, let me set the record straight. We're not in a band." And Matt Riddle goes, "Aww."
Come on. I'm sorry. You've been doing a little
on.
bit where you gave him his first name back, you gave him his intensity back, and now we've gone back to where he was. And I don't vibe with it. But not everything has to be for me.
Austin Theory took on Mustafa Ali. Rollins was doing commentary and was very distracting. The crowd went very quiet unless they wanted to sing Rollins' theme song.
Yeah. But it was a really, I thought, solid wrestling.
Solid wrestling, but this crowd did not give a flying F. And Ali had the match won, but Rollins distracted and interfered, and then Theory got the win instead. And then Rollins beat up Ali while the crowd sang his theme song. And then Ali attacked Rollins as he was leaving, but the crowd just didn't really feel it much.
Yeah. I mean, I liked the intensity from Ali in this match.
He's
I like the intensity
killing it.
afterwards.
He's going for it.
His new gear is really
great.
And
Love it.
And the look separates him from... He looks like a kickboxer. It's a good little look for him that separates him from everybody else. Because, I mean, there's an argument that Theory and Gargano are both ripped, short men with beards, and they don't look dissimilar in terms of gear. It's good to differentiate yourself in some way. Ali giving himself this tenacious intensity, and the look, those shorts was the drip on that. I was thrilled with.
Mm-hmm.
Seth was great on the commentary. He's in trouble with Dana Brooke.
I did see Dana Brooke have a little pop about this on the old Twitter machine.
Dana Brooke is quite bothered at Seth, which I think, whatever.
Well, maybe we'll get Dana Brooke versus Seth to unify the titles, unify the US and 24/7 championship.
Maybe we'll get that.
Maybe.
And, but the problem here, I wrote 3 things. Really solid wrestling. Seth very entertaining on comms. Another screwy finish, and it was the another screwy finish part that got on my nerves a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I started realizing that it's difficult to sort of keep the flow going if you're constantly being like buying into the match. Oh, it was a screwy finish. Like we're gonna keep saying this ad nauseam while this continues. Once in a while, absolutely fine. Every match on the card, not the one.
No, it's not. Gargano and Miz had a little chat backstage while Gargano was like racing towards Candice LeRae.
Forgot about it pretty sharpish though, didn't he?
Because then JBL and Baron Corbin walked up. And JBL was like, "Back out you there, you'd have been carrying my bags." And then that led to a match because Gargano called him, what did he call him?
MC Hammer Pants.
MC Hammer Pants. Yeah. And the crowd were crickets.
The crowd went mild.
Which doesn't help by the fact because he called him MC Hammer Pants. Everything was shot from the waist up. Yeah. So we couldn't see the trousers actually, he was wearing.
His trousers were considerably more fitted than they were last week. So even then it's not,
Yeah. And then made fun of Baron Corbin because he's had various different gimmicks recently.
Yeah.
And the crowd didn't react to that either.
Yeah.
And it led to a match later on.
I just don't. This is a tiny one, and I'm nitpicking, and I'm aware, but that's kind of why we're here. Last week when we were doing the Rampage review, they put the Jade Cargill segment in the middle of the show, and
weird placing for that.
Weird placing for it because it had been billed as Jade is going to be
she's going to take over
hijacking the show. And if the plan for that segment, which was what happened, was Jade hijacks the show, Nyla Rose steals her car, Jade gets mad about it, put that segment at the start of the show, right? These are simple details that why is no one... There are people involved in the scripting and the booking that can think about these details and create a more flowing show. In this segment, and later on in the show, we have Johnny Gargano is worried about his wife who has been jumped in the back, right? He's racing. He's literally racing to see... Not now, I've got to get to Candice, right? But then he's interrupted and he decides he's going to do some wisecracks. He's actually going to take some time. Why not have him leaving Candice and be like, I've just checked on her, she's not well, I'm kind of mad about it. Little details like that make it so that we don't get pulled out of this and so that we do buy into it more. And if you're trying to keep the flow, you're trying to keep us attention, you can't skimp on these little details. Just flip it around a little bit. Very simple. You have a continuity person, use them.
As John Robbins would say on the Alice and John 5 live show, basics, fundamentals.
That's exactly it.
That is what we're after here.
Yeah.
Great video package for Belair and Bayley to hype up the main event. And then, I thought this lad had moved to SmackDown.
You were wrong. You led us up the primrose path.
I really did.
You really promised me, and I was like, oh great. And then you text me being like, do you want to do the SmackDown review this week? And I was like, oh, I have to watch Omos again.
There's a bloody report that came out that said he'd been moved to SmackDown, and Wikipedia said he'd been moved to SmackDown. I know that's not a great thing to go by, but I was like, Omos has gone to SmackDown. I don't have to talk about Omos matches anymore. And then lo and behold, the big beggar is walking backstage with MVP, and I was like, oh, Christmas Day, I've got to watch another Omos match. Then Omos comes out and is like, it's a 4-on-1 handicap match. I'm like, I could not give a fuck. And then he
shot.
No, I know. I was like, I cannot be bothered with this. And we got this full-on video package that showed what happened when Omos met Braun Strowman on SmackDown. They showed the full thing. And then MVP comes out and cuts a promo where he says what happened on SmackDown. I was like, we really do have 3 hours to fill here, don't we? Because we are killing time.
Yeah.
And then Omos had a slow, plodding, boring 4-on-1 handicap match where he looked boring and he looked bad and he looked rubbish, and the crowd got so uninto this. And then he won, and I don't care. Go to SmackDown so I don't have to watch your stupid matches anymore. And I hope once this Braun Strowman thing is done, I have never seen a guy on this WWE roster that has been given chance after chance after chance after chance to get over and has not gotten over. I think the Omos experiment is done.
I like it when you get angry. This is fun. I really have a good time. But you're completely right. I will say I did enjoy the segment on SmackDown. I said this in the review. It was a thing where I against all expectation, when Omos is towering over him. He's towering over Braun Strowman. I did go, oh, he is a big man though. I did buy into it for a second.
Great, but Braun's not that tall.
But Braun is built as the monster.
There's people on the roster bigger than Braun Strowman. I think Gallows is like the same height as him.
But that's not how he's presented, and he's usually presented against smaller people. So getting that visual of someone massive was quite thrilling. But then we went back to just and the only difference between this week and last week was there was double the amount of people in the ring, and they were all someone with a Nickelodeon logo on his leg.
Yeah, like even on commentary they were like, I mean, Braun's never been in a ring with someone as big as. I was like, he had a match with the Big Show, who is taller than him. We've done this.
The Big Show doesn't exist.
Sorry, Paul White. But I could not give a flying smeg about this. It was dead boring. And it came at a point of the show when I was kind of ready for the show to be over, and there's like still an hour and a bit to go.
I did write that I think sometimes maybe Trips is booking these things to keep Vince at home. Like he's like, no, I'll still do that thing that you like. Just stay home. I promise.
Also, I mean, I've seen some people in the comments there being like, he's this generation's great Carly. Carly had a bit of charisma about him. Carly had some presence about him. Amos has got nothing about him. Carly had a bit of presence about him. When he walked to the ring, it was like, oh, wow, look at that dude there. And he would shout Carly when he did things. It was amazing. He wants some competition.
I was in the presence of a Carly stan. But
Carly was awful. Well, Carly won the belt and he held it upside down. It was like David Arquette 2.0
Oh my God.
But I'll go on this campaign. The Great Carly is better than Omos.
Oh, but that's the easiest campaign in the world. At least put effort in. Try and convince me that that the Great Carly is better than Kevin Nash.
Nash is way what? As a great. Oh, sorry. I see what you're saying.
That's that. I want you to do a difficult campaign.
I mean, I could probably do that one as well. The Great Carly never no-showed an event because he was going to lose, whereas Kevin Nash did that multiple times.
That's fair.
Win that one as well. Elias then took on Chad Gable. Interference and distractions by Otis, but
Chad Gable is so good.
I know, but then Elias won anyway with his little swinging neckbreaker thing. Got time and it was okay, but the crowd did not care. You could hear a pin drop,
which is frustrating because the knee to the moonsault,
great spot,
was fantastic. Gable, I did write this down. He excites me. I want him to be seen by casual viewers for what he is, rather than as Al Snow, because I know that everyone has their place on the roster, but Gable is too good. He's too good to just be a complete jobber. And when he locked in that ankle lock, nothing. Crowd.
No reaction.
Nothing at all. Absolutely and that upset me. So that's what I mean when I say he wants to win. I don't mind if he will remain really good because his work is so good. But I have gone back on my initial assertion based on the lack of crowd reaction to someone as good as Chad Gable that he needs to have some wins.
And then Alpha Academy beat down Elias after the match, and Riddle came down to make the save.
He did.
This, I thought, was genuinely very funny. Gallows was backstage with Anderson and AJ, and Anderson is there with an ice pack on his nads because Rhea Ripley hit him in the balls.
Yeah.
And he's like, look, we've got ourselves a Rhea problem. But of the three of us, I'm the best with women, so I'll go and sort this. I'm the Rhea-lution that we need here. And he walks out, and AJ's like, he's terrible with women. And Anderson's like, yeah, I know. And then we go to an ad break. We come after the ad break, and Gallows walks in holding his nuts.
Yeah.
He steals the ice pack off of Anderson and puts it on and is like, Jim me the balls.
It's good, funny
Genuinely very funny. Like
Yeah.
when you script Gallows and Anderson, we get Old Day and we get very bad comedy segments. This is them just being them.
Yeah.
And it was really, really funny. I really enjoyed this.
I did too. And I was intrigued by the we have a Rhea problem, what are we going to do about it? Because you do have a Rhea problem. Yeah, unless you go into a sort of intergender wrestling situation, which they have been shying away from because of optics, you're gonna have to bring a lady girl in. Do they have a lady girl that they?
Can we have some suggestions from the peanut gallery?
I would like that.
Who could be the re-illusion?
Maybe this is a blind spot for me. Are there any
In NXT?
No, I was thinking more in the Bullet Club. Have there been any female?
Not really, because New Japan don't really do like.
This is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily that. Gallows and Anderson have never really done anything with any women. AJ's never had a program with any women. That's why I keep coming back to Nikki Cross.
He teamed with Liv Morgan when they were facing off against Judgment Day, but Liv's now doing her own thing over on SmackDown.
That's actually true.
Yeah,
I forgot about that. But yeah, she's now well removed. Nikki is the only one I can think of.
Ivy Nile is one that jumps out to me. I think Ivy Nile would be really... Ivy Nile in NXT, she's like a big muscle girl.
Oh, okay.
Which is quite cool, though. So Mia Yim, I'm getting here. Brock Lesnar.
Love Mia.
Lacey Evans. Mia Yim, I think, is a good shout.
Yeah.
Charlotte, I'm not massively into the idea of Charlotte. Like Charlotte
it's the weirdest place to use Charlotte.
And it feels like a huge downgrade for Charlotte in a way.
I've seen a Beth.
Beth's a great... Yeah, Beth's too involved with...
she's got that.
But she's got beef with Judgment Day.
She has got beef with Judgment Day, but it'd be weird for her to come back and not Edge.
Not Edge. Yeah, no, I agree.
Given that the reason Edge is now away is because she had her head bashed in.
Okay, well, Homestar fan's clearly my kind of guy because he said Claire Lynch. So there was a storyline in TNA when Christopher Daniels... Was it Daniels? It was Bad Influence, I think. So Daniels and Kazarian had this dirt on AJ Styles that he was with
a baby.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember this. Yeah, this is one of the ones where I was like, all right, I'll watch that video.
With Claire Lynch.
Yeah.
And the actor that they'd hired in to play this Claire Lynch character was very, very bad. And everyone made fun of her online for being bad.
Yeah.
And then she stopped working for TNA and quit doing the storyline because she was doing stuff for the home network channel for sort of selling things, like shopping channels and things like that. And she was like, all this bad press is making it harder for me to get jobs.
Oh my god.
So she had to stop doing stuff with TNA. It was below her to do TNA because she was trying to get work on the shopping network.
Shopping network. Goodness gracious. Yeah, I'm into that.
Yeah, so thank you very much. Claire Lynch, let's bring her back. Then we got Baron Corbin versus Johnny Gargano.
Here's an example of someone being a heel by just being themselves.
Yeah, so JBL.
Yeah.
JBL
just came out and immediately started talking about woke snowflakes and you're responsible for these millennials and Gen Zs. And I was like, oh, you absolute Republican, get out of my life.
So JBL cut a promos about, Gen Z. And I was like, Johnny Gargano is 35.
You called him Gen Z?
Well, Z is the way to say the letter.
Yeah, but none of us in this country really say Gen Z. It's Gen Z.
Well, I'd say Gen Z. He is Lord Z. He's not Lord Z.
Good point, well made.
Come on, basics, fundamentals. So he's cut a promo on Gen Z, and I was like, Gargano's 35. Like he's he's a millennial. Also, B, he's younger than Baron Corbin. Anywho, so that was problem number one I had with it. But that's a very minor thing. This match was Corbin beating up Gargano slowly and ploddingly, and it was deafeningly silent in the arena.
Yeah.
And then at one point, Kevin Patrick said, Gargano winning here would be a major upset. And I'm like, why? Not just 4 minutes ago, you said he's a Triple Crown NXT winner. Why would it be an upset if Gargano won this match?
That's just something to say, isn't it?
Yeah, and then Gargano acted like a goofball by stealing JBL's hat, distracted himself like a big idiot, and then JBL tripped him on the apron and Corbin won. Boring it was.
I have to say, I personally think, and I was thinking during the match, that this is a good way of getting us to care about Baron Corbin in a heel context. Having JBL come out and do commentary, it feels like appointment. You want to sit down and watch that. Like it's.
I like him and Corey.
I like him and Corey too. I have a lot more time for Baron Corbin than I think most people do. There was a great little bit right at the beginning where Gargano's on the ropes doing a little hello everybody, I'm here to wrestle now. And Corbin kicked the ropes to be like, which was nice little heel nonsense. I really enjoyed that. I think Corbin's got some stuff to him. I think that the partnership with JBL, like we said last week, has potential. But then Johnny Gargano starts putting the thingy on his head and starts doing little dances, and it just was like, dweeb. Now I want to see you get your head hit off, and I don't want that because I like Johnny Gargano very, very much.
Yeah. No, I'm with that Ultra Chat we had earlier. It was like he made me not care about a Johnny Gargano match, and that takes some skill. That takes some doing.
Yeah.
And then,
but also JBL standing up in fear that Corbin might lose was a lot of fun, and then Cura's like, "Oh, you're just adjusting your seat there." And it's like, "Yeah, it's very warm in here." I loved that stuff.
I think JBL's really good in this role because JBL's very good at being a knob. And that is what he is doing here. And I like him and Corey. Basically, Kevin just goes quiet for the whole match because it's just I don't say anything in case they bully you.
Yeah, but also I also liked the wrestling in this match. I think there was a lot of really good wrestling on this show. It just was the storyline, the telling within the stories of the matches, and the crowd being relatively quiet this week because it was an exhausting 3-hour show, made it hard to really keep that momentum and keep that flow. And you're right, this was the point where I was like, this show needs something now.
Yeah.
Please.
And then lastly, thing to talk about, because we have talked about the main event, was Kathy interviewing Bianca Belair, and we got a great video package for Brock and Bobby.
I wrote this down, that the video package editors have always been the real MVP.
Yeah, really are.
And this episode, the one with Bianca and the one with Brock, was evidence of that.
Great.
Really, really good.
So overall, I ended up giving this show on the edited review 4 out of 5, and that was actually well, it was off the back of the Nikki Cross thing because it was a standard episode of Raw, so I was like all the way 3 out of 5, and I was actually even thinking of downgrading it to a 2.
I'm a 2.5.
Yeah, and I think that is more the fair. I think I actually overscored it really when I think about it more. But I was just like the Nikki thing, just like there was all this injection of energy, and I was like, oh, actually, yeah, maybe I'm looking back on some of the other things unfairly, but no, it actually was quite a boring show.
I think that's it though. Is when you look at the moments. There are some really fun moments. There are some really good matches. There are some really... The Nikki Cross thing was a good return. Great opener. Good moment with the Good Brothers. The Rhea front slam. Lots of good individual moments. So why doesn't it flow? It's hard to get a 5-star show out of a 5-star show out of 3 hours. Yeah. Because it just feels plodding. That's the difficulty, I think.
It's doing Lord of the Rings every single week. It's not easy to do.
You barely do Lord of the Rings.
So let us know what you thought of this show over in the Ultra Chats while I get up. Oh, we don't actually have any more Patreon shoutouts to do.
Okay.
We did them all.
Good go us.
So well done us. But thank you all. Actually, I will put over Patreon though, because tomorrow on Patreon, it's the last of our Wednesday uploads for the month of October. And it is Ollie Davis and myself reviewing TNA Bound for Glory 2005.
You've been very excited about this.
Very excited. I love TNA Bound for Glory 2005. I think it is a great show that is both the best and worst of TNA all wrapped up into one.
Give me the main event.
So the main event is supposed to be Jarrett versus Nash for the NWA World Championship. However, Nash had a health scare the night before, so he couldn't wrestle.
Right.
So according to the reports of the time, halfway through the show, they decided what the main event was going to be. And what they ended up doing was a 10-man over-the-top gauntlet battle royal. And the winner of that would then face Jeff Jarrett for the title. And there's like 20 minutes left of the show by the time they start the gauntlet match.
Oh, okay.
So that takes up quite a bit of time. And it's won by Rhino, of all people, despite the fact that Joe and AJ were in the match. And then Rhino beats Jeff Jarrett in 5 minutes to win the belt.
I didn't know that was a thing that happened.
Yeah, he was the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion for a very brief period of time, because then Jarrett just wins the belt back in a few weeks' time.
Yeah,
which was the plan. Nash was supposed to win the belt on the night. There's a lot of this is all covered in the show tomorrow, and then Jarrett winning back on the special. But yeah, it was a fascinating little match. The AJ Daniels 30-minute Iron Man match is really good. The opening match is Samoa Joe versus Jushin Thunder Liger.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. They have an
fantastic.
Ultimate X match where the finish is completely bollocksed. Because the X keep
match is like something's going to happen.
Something's going yeah. And they have a world title match.
Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a world tag title match between America's Most Wanted and the Naturals. However, all of the video package is about AMW versus Team 3D, because that was the story they were telling, but Team 3D were written off the show.
Yeah.
But Team 3D come out at the end of the show. So I'm like, well, why didn't you just do AMW versus the Team 3D? But anyway, let's get into the rest of your remaining Ultra Chats. That'll be available tomorrow at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. This is ding, 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 your last call to get subs in. And sorry, get your chats in because I was pressing the subs button. I got it working. Sky Shadowrun says, hey, hope you're doing well. I would absolutely love a Sanity return. I think everyone deserves a second chance after Vince, honestly. My biggest deal breaker is they must have that music back. Most of the entrance music is so generic nowadays.
I
Ain't
agree.
That the truth?
Often you hear a music hit and then you're like, who's this? And you're waiting for the... It's the same way as when they had that massive close-up on Roman going, who's this? Although, ironically now, AJ has one of the most iconic and noticeable entrance themes. But yeah, I agree with you completely.
The poll result of would you like to see Sanity back in WWE? 74% said yes. So that's very nice to see. Rob Buck says, hello, gents. California never gets old. Also, even though Nikki tanked all the damage control, I really think we're having her on the... I think we have our War Games team set. That's what we were talking about earlier. Maybe Bayley manipulates Nikki because it's better to have her with them than against them, just a thought.
Yeah, we've got the women, the babyface female War Games teams there. We have needed one extra on the damage control side, and maybe Nikki is that person.
Yeah. Ziggy Gamma says, props to R-Truth for dropping a Grand Slam reference when he pointed at The Miz during his rap.
He did do that.
Benny Boy...
Grand Slam, isn't he? Twice the Grand Slam?
I don't care.
The Miz supremacy!
There's loads of people who are Grand Slam champions. Dolph Ziggler's
Yeah,
one
but
of
there
them.
aren't many people who are two-time Grand Slam champions
don't-
like Mike the Miz Mizanin. Reality check for Luke Owen. Next.
Benny Boy 004. Probably the minority here, but I'd be up for a Gargano R-Truth tag team.
You are in the minority there.
Yep. Oh, yeah. My buddy Cliff here, N64 Life, said, hello, you two, from Mal del Plata? Mel del Plata from in Argentina. I watched Raw live last night as a respectable time for once.
Yeah.
I've just joined, so I have no idea where you are on the show, but my addition is I like the silliness of the R-Truth segment. Silly nonsense for the win.
I did have a laugh at it, Luke. I'm sorry. I did. You're right.
But I mean, like, here's the thing. My reaction to it was like, R-Truth coming out here and doing a full 3-minute rap and then doing a jinx joke with Gargano is befitting of this Loomis story.
It is. I just wish Johnny Gargano wasn't in it.
Yes, I agree.
You know,
I said in my edited review that actually a lot of the jokes landed, but the ones that didn't got over like a fart in a spacesuit.
That's very, very, very well accurate, yeah.
Finn Brennan, what's the crack, lads? Hope you're doing well. I've just got off a 7-hour shift, which sucks, but it means I get to Ultra Chat live. Who do you think Uncle Howdy will be? Bray Wyatt.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think it's all of them are Bray
All of
Wyatt.
them.
Every single one of them is Bray Wyatt. I think that's the Wyatt 6. It's all different versions of him.
And I like that idea.
Me too. I love it.
Yeah.
Jack Oss, just all kinds of Wyatt stuff, said, hey guys, waiting for your podcast. Excuse me. I just wanted to ask, what do you feel about Bianca Belair as champion currently? Personally, I can't wait for Bayley or someone else to take it off her. Very one-dimensional and boring reign. I feel like she has no story. That's the problem.
I think that I like the fact it's a bit bobbled, isn't it? It's a bit Bobby Lashley. I quite liked the promo backstage with my love of my life, Kathy Kelly, because she when you're out in the ring, I think there's a little bit of baggage because you're looking for audience reaction and things like that. And I think that when she's in that scenario, Bianca's promos aren't as good as they could be. Backstage, you get a level of intensity, and I'm actually when she delivers in the ring every single time. This match was great. The ladder match was really entertaining.
Awesome.
I think it is a lack of a story. I think that's the main problem.
Yeah. I'm going to disagree with you on a point you made earlier. I think the reason that you and Kathy will get divorced is because she's on the road so much, and she would feel very bad that she's leaving you at home so much. And she's like, you're too much of a nice guy, Dan.
I'm happy to travel with her.
You need to go out there and spread your wings and find someone you can be with all the time and be able to give your love to all the time.
I'll follow you, Kathy. I'll follow you anywhere you go.
But not in a creepy way.
No, in like a respectful. I'll do my other things while I'm freelance, so I can work from anywhere. I can hot desk. You know, that's not a problem.
In a respectful way.
Yeah. No simping here, thank you. Although a lot of simping.
Yeah. Sarah Stank said 1 out of 5 show. Too many distraction finishes, plus just some genuinely terrible television. Also, I don't care about Sanity, so the idea of coming back does nothing for me. I was really hoping we'd see some big changes in WWE with the old man gone, but no. I think that's unfair because I think we've seen major changes across this show. One okay to bad show does not undo all of the good work that Triple H has done up until this point.
I agree completely. I think there has been some really exciting, really engaging moments, and I think even within the show, a focus on wrestling and a focus on longer matches is evidence of that. however, do agree that this show was 1 to 2 out of 5.
Yeah.
You know?
Gar Monroe may only be a few weeks in, but for me, Kevin Patrick isn't ready to lead Raw. He's more of a voiceover, a highlight show guy. Thoughts on JBL replacing KP to be color commentary with Corey taking the main lead?
I don't think that's
Corey's a color guy.
He's a really, and I think a good color guy. I know what you mean about KP. I think this is still week 3. He's still got time to grow. But the unfortunate thing about being the main voice of Raw is that you have to get good quick because you are the voice of the show.
Look at Adnan Virk.
Yeah.
And Virk just like they put him out there and he floundered and they were like, this isn't working.
It's just not working. I think it's hard to do. I think that even Michael Cole, took a long time and only recently he's only been able to find his stride.
Look at Cole in 99.
Yeah.
Awful.
Yeah.
Awful commentator. And it took him a really long
The dog poop.
Steel stairs. What a chair shots. Like it's lots of bad Michael Cole stuff, but like he did get better over time, and it does take time to get this. But yeah, for me, Kevin's not working currently, but I'm not ready to give him the heave ho just yet. Also, the idea of JBL and Corey, that's 2 heels, I can't be doing with 2 heels.
For me, it's Mauro Ranallo, but then he doesn't want to travel, so what are you gonna do?
Gabriel Reyes said, "I'm already reading into this, but I took Bayley pushing the camera down as a ruse, mainly because they typically show the beatdowns. Like maybe Candice has aligned with damage control. It'll be a shock heel turn at War Games. Triple H does love his heels."
That's an interesting thought because we didn't see the beatdown, and I always say if it's not on screen, it's not canon.
That's right.
So.
Do you think people like Gargano are struggling to get over because they're not used to the main roster crowd and they're used to the NXT crowd, which are different audiences entirely? How do you think Triple H could adapt them to the new audience? It's retraining the audience to we're having longer matches and these are the things that you get into. You're right, like it is the WWE audience has been trained for the last 40 years to accept a certain style of match, and now they're being like, and now here's a completely new style that we're going to be presenting on TV. So it's just going to take time.
It's a delicate mix.
But the best thing that Triple H can do is to not panic and hit the reset button and go back to an old way. Is to keep going and be like, no, this is the new thing that we're doing.
And this is why when we talk about when I brought up the trio titles before, in my head when I think about the show, I'm thinking rather than having it be 3 hours of Raw, I'm thinking of it breaking up those 3 hours and having 1 hour where it's like almost like a mini show in and of itself, and then you have the main storyline shows where it's like, they used to have like Warzone and then Raw is War. Have a different vibe for each of them. They used to do it on Nitro as well. I don't know. There's something. It is retraining the crowd. It's letting the casual viewer know that there's a different energy to the show because this show has been made this way for 20 plus years. Really, if you go back to watch anything from 2014, 2012, even like it's all very homogenous and very similar. And if we're looking to put a bit of intensity back, we're looking to change the style of wrestler that the casual audience and the audience who are going to pay their tickets to come to the show to see. That takes time. So you're exactly right. It's not panicking and just trusting in your vision, trusting that eventually it will come good. Yeah. And I hope it will.
I'll hot tag to you for Chris's chat here.
Where are we? There we go. Hi guys, nothing on Raw this week, but I wanted to ask if you've seen Alexa's interview with Metro, where she speaks how all the hate and cruelty she gets on a daily basis affects her. If you think she's more likely to walk away from the industry entirely in 2023. I mean, she looks like she's not looked like she's having a good time.
She's had a bad year.
Yeah.
In terms of like, she's had nothing to do all year long.
And she said, I actually haven't read the full interview, but I have read highlights from it. And she did say that, it's the negativity. She's been on record as saying people are allowed to have their opinion. She's also saying that like when that opinion goes too far and becomes about the person rather than about the character that they're playing on television, that's too much. She talked about being emotionally and physically exhausted, and then you get that on top of it and it's just one step too far. This is why I think an off season. I think having wrestlers you don't have to be injured to be allowed to go on holiday for a little bit. Have you as a performer refreshed, have your character refreshed, and you come back and there's something to do is a really positive thing for, they always talk about how wrestling has no off season. I think maybe it should. I don't want to see her walk away entirely. I wouldn't blame her for having a break. You remember Jericho took a break in like 2005, 2007 to go off and do Fozzy, came back re-energized. There's something to be said for it.
There really is, yeah. And like, we talk about this a lot, but hate online is there's no place for it. Like attacking someone personally for a wrestling character you portray on screen. Like it's one thing when people like come after me and send me cack online because like I gave some opinions that they don't agree with,
This
and then start calling you names and saying this, that, and the other. That's one thing. But I'm not playing a character.
No.
But like people going after Alexa because like she ruined the Fiend or whatever is a completely different thing. Like that's not your target of your ire. The ire should be going towards WWE for bad creative.
And Vince McMahon for picking that character off him and giving it to her instead.
Yeah.
And it's this whole thing of not being able to see the wood for the trees and keyboard warriors and all of this stuff like that, because like having been a person with a public facing job for the past 10 years, it does get to you. At the end of the day, you're still a person, and like you say, in this context, if you don't agree with an opinion that I have about a wrestling show, that's fine. If you're going to say you're a AEW mark or a shill or anything like that, it's fundamentally incorrect, because we say good things about and bad things about both shows. It's when you start getting personal. In my experience, if you start talking about a person's look, about a person's character, about a person's, I mean personal character, not character on television. If you start talking about their physical appearance or their attributes, and it gets really toxic, and it does affect you on a personal level. And I'm a YouTuber from Britain, right? She's international superstar Alexa Bliss. I can't imagine what that's like for her. So I would highly think before you tweet and give these people a little break.
Yeah.
Aaron says, hi guys, Raw really needs a top champion, with AEW having too many belts. It's the opposite for WWE. Oh wait, we have Quizlemania champions. Also Omos, cry laughing emoji face.
Also, shout out to Aaron, who's been a member for 15 months in a row there. And yes, they do have our Quizlemania tag team champions in the Good Brothers.
Yeah.
Although I think at this point there are 3 different tag team champions, because I think there's the Good Brothers, there is Will and Denise, and I think Stephen Larson.
So you've got tag team champions, interim tag team champions,
and then interim tag team champions. Yeah. Oh no, it was like Sean and RJ City won the belts, and I think there are interim champions, and then Denise and Will are our interim tag team champions.
So much like AEW, you have too many belts in Quizlemania.
Yeah, but it's all the same belt, because we've also got 2 different Quizlemania champions in Will Washington and technically Sullivan.
Yeah, well, fix it.
So yeah,
but I agree. I think a world champion, it's just a focal point of the show, which in fairness they do with the women's championship. They did for a solid run, especially in early damage control, and it did work. It's just now that got stale. What's next?
Yeah,
Charles Berg has been a member for 18 months in a row. I ruined his theme for Pete and Dan. Now it's your turn, Luke. The start of Roman's theme song sounds like Patrick Starr saying "Leadle, Leadle, Lee."
I'm not a SpongeBob.
Neither am I.
No, I mean I'm pushing 40, so SpongeBob was way after my time,
and I just didn't pay attention. Everyone else around me thinks it's weird that I didn't watch SpongeBob, but I was watching Sabrina the Teenage Witch. So if you want to make a reference to that,
which is weird because that's like my childhood show.
We're not that far apart in age. I look so young.
I know. Yeah, I keep forgetting.
Great energy. I'm basically 22.
So yeah, I have seen the movie though. Seen the first SpongeBob movie, and it's very, very funny.
Yeah.
But I do not know what Patrick saying "Leadle, Leadle, Lee" sounds.
But
like.
rest assured, Pete was very upset about that. So, yeah.
Well, I'm grand. I'm glad that it ruined Pete's day.
Sky Shadowrun says, "Hey again. I was wondering if you could please explain the idea of Triple H removing gimmick premium live events. I never got to watch takeovers before 2.0 took over, so I was wondering if that meant no Elimination Chamber or Hell in a Cell and the rest."
I think it means this was actually what we were going to do as our Content Club episode last week before everything else happened. So I think it means more like Hell in a Cell. It's removing TLC. It's removing, I suppose not Extreme Rules, but I think those are the 2 kind of main culprits. And actually, you know what? I actually wouldn't be against them removing Elimination Chamber and just saving the Elimination Chamber to just do sporadically throughout the year, or once a year, but it doesn't have to be at Elimination Chamber. Because because my problem is with gimmick pay-per-views. And Elimination Chamber has this problem, as does Hell in a Cell, as does TLC, and I actually think so does War Games with Survivor Series, and it happened when you're in NXT as well. You have already assigned yourself a gimmick match that you have to do at that show, as opposed to arriving at that gimmick match when the storyline requires it. So like in NXT, every late October, November time, all of a sudden 4 lads would just crop up to have a match against the Undisputed Era. And it's like these 4 lads, all of a sudden 4 lads have got beef with them, and we have to come together to do War Games. But it's always in November. And I kind of want to move away from that. Just having Hell in a Cell be a match that happens at a pay-per-view when the storyline requires it. Elimination Chamber when a storyline requires it.
Yeah, I think that I actually feel differently about Elimination Chamber. I think I agree completely about everything else. Hell in a Cell is something where it's like, oh, now we're doing this match, but it's Hell in a Cell because it's November or whenever Hell in a Cell was. I think it should be the point that the story builds so much that the only way these two can be contained is Hell in a Cell, and you should wait for it. In fact, I stop the event and don't give us a Hell in a Cell match for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Because it needs to have that. You know, that I remember that who was it? It was Nash and Triple H, and Austin was like Hell in a Cell, and it was like whoa. It's that same kind of reaction that you're after. Elimination Chamber feels different for me because it's a multi-person match, and because of the nature of the match, I actually and especially when there were two champions, I actually quite liked the fact that we had because there is one famous gimmick pay-per-view that nobody brings up in this conversation.
Royal Rumble.
The Royal Rumble. And why? Because the Royal Rumble is about an opportunity for later. If you didn't win the Royal Rumble, you have your second opportunity to get into the main event of WrestleMania. So if you manage to win the Elimination Chamber, cool. That for me is how you deploy something like that. Maybe you move around. Money in the Bank is a similar thing. I like the idea of there being a pay-per-view. It's this year's the opportunity for you to grab this. Then again, I liked the match when it was in
WrestleMania.
In WrestleMania, but I kind of am not mad about it being a pay-per-view in its own right because I like that. That's how you do themes right. Just putting on matches in a Hell in a Cell because it's November is not the way to do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind dropping the Money in the Bank pay-per-view and moving that to just being a WrestleMania match again. Problem is that it's. You want to do the men and the women's one,
yes.
unless you stick with being a 2-night event, then you can do one on one night, one on the other night.
That's true. I mean, then the argument against that is that it's too many ladder matches, and do all ladder matches look the same, and does it have the same effect? I quite like Extreme Rules being
two
the
different
one night.
nights,
as
opposed to being on the same show.
That's true. I do like the idea of Extreme Rules because it's especially this year when we had stipulations for everyone. They didn't all work, but I like there being a different stipulation match, and this is where it's. That's a theme that I can get behind.
I agree, yeah. The Extreme Rules, for me, is not a gimmick it is a gimmick pay-per-view, but I think it's more like, when they did Fatal 4-Way.
Yes.
Or they did tables, ladders. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of thing. I think that's more what we're looking to move away from, and I'm all for that as well.
Yeah, me too.
I'll take this one.
Okay.
Actually, no. I think it's probably better if you read this.
Larami Eshnar says, I used to be a fan of this channel until Luke had the audacity to say that Mikey was the third best turtle when he is objectively the best. He's Sami Zayn, for God's sake. The order goes Mikey, Ralph, Donnie, Leo. Anyway, cowabunga Dan, but not you, Luke.
Look, it all depends on which turtles you had. So, 87 turtles for me. I don't think Mikey is the best one. However, if you said to me it was like 2013, I'd be like, yeah, I think arguably Mikey is the best of the lot. But if you're looking at Turtles in Time, he's not the best one. If you're looking at the movies, I don't think he's the best one.
So much analysis between you and the chat and the comments have gone into these turtles that I'll be honest with you, entirely passed me by because I was too busy watching Sabrina the Teenage Witch again.
Well, but I think you fell into the poor generation in this time because, when I was a child, I had the 87 Turtles, and by the time you were of that age, the Turtles were basically dead, and the Turtles just went on hiatus for 10 years.
Yeah. Unless
you count the new the new Mutation live action series, which is quite bad.
I was born right on the cusp of the 90s.
Exactly. So. Yeah. So I think the 90s kind of missed the Turtles bandwagon. It's sort of it didn't have a 90s. It just had some nostalgia for the 80s one. Then you get into the early 2000s, you get the 2003 series, which, I've got no nostalgic feelings towards. I think it is okay. But if you were a child, then it's the best one. 2013 Turtles, though, is amazing. It is a quality show. Every single season, maybe the last one, is absolutely perfect television. I cannot get enough of it. And Mikey in that show is so, so great.
You feel as passionately about these turtles as I feel about Karen Walker from Will and Grace, and I quite respect it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, but I think if you were to collate them all together, if you were to collate all the different variations of them together, I think Mikey's the third best one. He's no Donnie, because Donnie's the best one. He's no Raph, because Raph's at least got some interesting character to him. But, last Ronin, so I can't completely go against the lad.
Infamously, you have a lot of time on your hands, Luke. So if you ever, on the many days where you find yourself kicking about with not a lot to do, if you ever feel like drawing a graph about these, I would like...
Oh, I mean, there's a YouTube video in all of this where you would do a ranking of all the turtles from all the different iterations. Yeah, do it through all the comics, the various different iterations of the IDW stuff. there's plenty to be done here. I did talk about doing a Turtles podcast at one point.
Infamously unbusy Luke Owen. Find some extra time in your calendar and do it.
This was before I started doing my Games Master podcast.
Yeah.
I did do like 3 test episodes of a Turtles podcast that reviewed all of the 2013 show, and I did it on my own. But it was actually quite lonely doing a podcast on your time. And I wanted to talk about it with a friend.
Yeah.
So, but maybe it's a bonus episode I'll do on my Games Master podcast at some point.
I'm in full support. You need an outlet, it sounds like, because this is now 2 weeks in a row.
Well, it's just I think the Turtles are great, and as a multi-generational thing, they're awesome.
I respect that.
Yeah.
David Evans says,
"Have you seen the movie?
No,
the original movie.
I've not seen any. I know that. That's X-Men. That's what I mean. I was about to tell an anecdote about something entirely different.
The original movie, the 1991, is I think arguably the greatest comic book movie ever made.
I was a Power Rangers fan.
Oh, Power Rangers. Yeah, I mean, then you'll probably love the 1990 movie. Then. It's really good. I've interviewed. So here's a fun Luke Owen story.
Please.
During my my freelancing days, I woke up one morning and I thought to myself, why was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 the movie so bad? And I was just pondering, I was like, why was this so bad? So I then just used a lot of my resources that I had to reach out to the producer of the movie and then had a Skype conversation with him as to why the movie was so bad.
Sometimes life is so weird.
And then I had a chat with him, and then that led me on to talk to other people about it. And then I just basically interviewed a lot of the people that made all of the live action 90s movies. And I had an hour and a half conversation with Kevin Eastman on the phone, ironically, while I was wearing Turtles pajamas because of the time difference and stuff. And I ended up writing a series of articles about how the live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies got made.
So you're a Teenage Mutant Ninja scholar.
In a way, I mean, yeah, I've got lots of audio interviews that I've recorded over the years. Like I say, over the years, over a period of like a month and a half, where I was just chatting with loads of people who made these movies. But yeah, I just woke up one day and I was like, "Why is that movie so bad?" And I called.
I'll call the producer.
I'll call the producer. Turns out it's Peter Laird's fault.
Yeah.
Like that was the sum total of our conversation. It's
Peter Laird.
It's Peter Laird's fault.
How could you?
Because Peter Laird didn't want them to do stuff that was like from the show and stuff. But anyway, that's beside the point. Do you want to do the next chat?
Yeah,
Sorry,
we derailed quite far down a turtle mine hole. Hi, Luke and Dan. Not directly related to Raw, but I wanted to ask Luke whether you had heard Denise on the Fightful Post show talking about her massive penis.
Yeah, I mean,
I have.
I mean, I have as well.
His penis is infamous at this point.
Because I always listen to the Fightful Post show, and I love Denise and everything. And someone messaged me on Twitter being like, "I really want to get Luke's thoughts on this," and I was like, "I don't know how to approach this question." And I don't know what to say. Because my first instinct was to say, yeah, I've seen it. It's amazing.
It's quite something to behold. It's a behemoth.
But then I was like, oh man, people will probably think that's weird. So I've just
taken it the wrong way.
Yeah, people will take it the wrong way. So I've just stayed really quiet on it. But that was my first reaction to be like, yeah, I've seen it and it's awesome.
It's famous among circles in the wrestling community.
Yeah, I love Denise so much. I miss Denise.
Well, she's too busy focusing on her massive penis. Unfortunately, for the rest of us, it takes up a lot of time and energy.
And it takes one to know one.
Sure. Bobby M says, I think Shotzi Blackheart is the perfect fit for the OC. Aesthetically, she just works, and her how goes with the whole too sweet. I think strong.
Shotzi's a good shout.
I think Shotzi's a very good shout.
Shotzi's, actually, I quite like Shotzi.
Because it's that same thing of, there is something about that tank and that energy that fits with, you're exactly right, fits with the Good Brothers vibe that they bring to the show. So I think that's a good shout. And Cesaro Stank says, I do not want to see WWE try and be AEW and add trios belts. WWE actually needs to get rid of some belts because they actually have too many belts. AEW didn't invent trios belts. They currently have trios belts, fair play, but AEW didn't invent trios belts. So just want to put that in the bin to begin with. However, I do agree with the too many belts things because they're all currently on one batch of people and it sort of makes it a bit confusing. If you have a clear delineated brand split, I think you do need the belts on each show. I do think you need something for everyone on every show to go for. But that brand split needs to be so separate that it's basically WWE and a different show. That's how you do the too many belts things.
Yeah.
Personally, I like trios wrestling, so I'd like to see it.
I love it as well. We've gone way too long on this show, so massive apologies to you, Dan, because I know you're a busy boy.
I've got several pubs to go to.
Yeah, I mean you do. I've got things to do. I've got a show to edit.
Yeah.
But and we are going to draw this episode to a close. Thank you all so much for your Ultra Chats. Thank you all so much for watching this stream, and thank you for indulging me on my TMNT chat, which probably did not need to be on this show. But please do press the subscribe button, press the thumbs up. If you're still here and you're still watching, there's 1,200 of you. Please do press that thumbs up button because it really does help out this show, and it helps out this channel as well as we try to get towards 70,000 subscribers. Thank you all so much for watching. We will see you on Thursday for the AEW Dynamite review. Take care, everyone. Jam that jam.